Alright guys, today what we're doing is we're working on the send out exercise. This is an exercise that normally we see in schutzhund or IGP, and what it is, it's an obedience exercise. As we're heeling our dog down the field and we approach the 15 pace mark, we say to the dog voraus, which means to go out, and the dog must leave the handler as fast as possible and in a direct straight line until eventually he covers at least 30 to 40 paces, at which time the judge usually signals to the handler to down its dog. And again, this is an exercise showing more in the way of tractability when it concerns the dog in following orders. The exercise itself is generally very hard to teach, simply because any exercise where the dog orients itself away from the handler means you have less control over the handler. But we do it in such a way which makes it very easy for both the handler and the dog to learn. Normally what I'll do is I'll pick a field such as this, a soccer field, and I like something, a reference point, like the goalpost over there. And what would happen is, for the send out, we usually use a toy. Because people usually ask, well, how do you get the dog to leave you? Well, there has to be a reason or an incentive for the dog to leave you. And generally, what we do is utilize the dog's favorite toy. Now, I have a send out toy that we take and we place it right in the middle of the goalpost that you see in the background. And the reason being is, for this particular exercise, it has to be done on the same field, the same location every time. It's an exercise in memory, in habit forming. And so what we want to do is use our reference point, the goalpost, to help the dog to learn to go out straight towards the post, at which time it'll find its toy. Now generally what will happen is we'll start with the toy very close to the dog and get the dog excited and send the dog out to the toy. Once the dog grabs the toy, we engage in play. From there now, we usually reset the toy and go a little bit further back. Again, following that straight line path towards the toy. We will do this for several sessions until we can get at least a good one, myself, 60 to 100 paces out. At which time, the toy now, because we're so far away, the toy becomes very small. And really and truly, the dog can't see it at that distance. But what will happen is when we send the dog out, as it nears the toy actually gets bigger. And then you see the dog actually power up. At which time now he gets out there, boom, he gets his toy, I run in there and we engage. From there, once the dog is doing that proficiently at a distance of about 60 to 100 paces, now I go back to square one, starting at about a meter away from the toy, loading the dog up, telling him voraus, which is again to go out, run behind him. As soon as he grabs the toy, I tell him plats or down. And once he downs, because his obedience is fairly strong, then we mark it and we break and play. Eventually now we'll bring the two together, the distance and the down exercise. And this is how we go about teaching the send out exercise. So with that said, let's get the dog and get it started. To begin the exercise, we take our dog and his favorite toy to the designated field, to the designated spot. And usually what will happen is, to start the beginner dog, we'll start at approximately a meter away from the designated spot. So with my assistant handy, or if I don't have an assistant, let's say, we would place the dog on a down approximately a meter away from the spot where we're going to place the toy. In this situation, you'll see the toy will be placed right underneath the goalpost. I use that as my reference point. From there now, we run back to the dog. If we have an assistant holding the dog, we take the leash, we point towards the toy as we say voraus, which means to go out. Or if the dog is on a down, we run back, grab the leash, release him from the down as we point towards the toy, telling him voraus. We allow the dog to run out, grab the toy, at which time we engage with the dog and play with it vigorously. With this exercise, progressively we would move further away from the toy. I usually do increments of about 3 to 5 feet. We would do this over several sessions until eventually I can go out at least 60 to 80 feet, or paces we'll say, from our designated spot. The ideal situation is to be able to send the dog from such a distance where he can't see the toy until he starts to move out towards it. And then, and only until that time comes, would we start to introduce the second component to the sender. Send him in, let him grab it, and down him. See what happens. Yep. So when teaching this exercise, what I like to do is have an assistant either restrain the dog as I run out to place the toy and then run back and grab my line and direct the dog to the toy. The reason for this, it really helps to pump some energy and drive into the animal. It keeps the enthusiasm levels high. If I don't have access to an assistant, then what I can do is place the dog on a down as I run out, place my toy, run back, and as soon as I retrieve the dog, I load the dog for at least a good 3 to 5 seconds before sending the dog out. But in general, I prefer having a secondary person available so as to really pump some life into the dog. Alright, so now I'm just going to show you a couple of the toys that I use when teaching the send out. This toy here I find is great for the send out exercise. It's made out of bite suit material, so it's very durable. It's got 2 flat flaps that you see like that, where now I can place it on the ground, stand it up just like that on the ground. So again, it's elevated off the ground. It also has this handle here, so once the dog grabs a toy, boom, we can engage the dog's play drive using the handle. So this is my primary send out toy. Aside from that, we have our rugby balls. So we have the large blue and red rugby ball. It's very big for dogs that love balls. We find this is great because it also has a handle which allows you to engage with the dog. We also have a medium size, and as you notice, this one has the bright yellow. So this can help the dog at a distance in a way of traveling in a straight line towards its target. But nonetheless, these toys are used as a primary reward or an incentive to go out straight and to go out fast. And these things, I like to mix them up. So one week I might use the big toy, another week I might use the bright colored one, or I'll go back to my primary send out.